a note that I forgot at home that was very kind of academic kind of learning, and I forgot it, I guess, for a reason. Considering if I'm talking about decolonization and if I'm talking about questioning one's learning, maybe the universe is telling me it's okay, you forgot those, terminology notes that you're gonna give people, just wing it. So that's what I'm gonna do. That's how I'm gonna do my presentation. So I guess to start off, I guess it wouldn't make sense to talk about the work without really delving and talking about my experience growing up. So a lot of my work stems from personal experiences and questioning why I experienced those issues. So at first, I went up with a title called From Decolonizing Diasporic Queer Bodies to Decolonizing Academic Pedagogy. And these two images, I think, is a good way to start this topic. The image on the left is a selfie that's cut out. And the image on the right is this Parisian World Fair from 1931, where they have indigenous tribes from the Philippines to show, like, specimen. So to me, it's that idea of being seen to be studied and at the same time questioning my own identity and removing myself from what is being thought. I guess the starting would be going back to my father, Fundador Cali Soriano, growing up in a constructive narrative. He was a writer, producer, and filmmaker in the Philippines. And growing up, there was already that idea of performative, this kind of fake reality, that one kind of construct. And as a kid, I remember when actors used to rehearse their lines at our place, I kind of started to reimagine narratives and stories or melodramas. So when I was born in 1980, they decided to put me as the baby prop for this TV show called Flor de Luna, which is a telenovela Filipino drama. And one of the actresses is Janice de Belen. If you're Filipino, you probably would know who she is. So I guess in a way, my starting is this kind of idea of performative or becoming an object to kind of re-represent. So at an earlier on, excavating all of these old photographs, I started to kind of question that idea of the narrative or the false narrative. So I grew up in the Philippines in 1980 to 1990. And growing up and not knowing what the word queer or gay is, I just knew that something was different. I remember approaching my brother at 5 years old, telling him that his friend, who's a guy, was attractive and I wanted to hold his hand. And then my brother continues and say, "Ew, that's sick, I'm gonna tell on mom." And at that point, as a young child, we were shown what's right and what's wrong. So to me, I realized that, maybe I should be acting a certain way. So again, all of these notions of narratives and performance and changing starts to really in-depth in self in my experience growing up. And I thought it was normal. Being gay was normal, or I didn't have the vocabulary of what gayness is, but I thought people are just meant to love who they want to love or care for or be attracted to. So at an earlier age, I was shown that there is an idea or a status quo, a way of living. And it was hard. It was hard to readjust. It was hard to live in a world where it felt like I was lost in. I remember for Christmas, I told my mom, she's here actually, sitting over there, I told my mom that I wanted a Barbie dream house.
What's going on here?
A housewarming.
Right. Now, Mattel's famous Barbie has a brand new dream house.
But I got a remote control truck. And I was disappointed, but at the same time, I knew I had to do something about it because it wasn't the kind of toy I wanted. So I stole my mom's shoebox and plopped it on top of the remote control truck and cut out little flowers and stole my sister's Barbie doll and plopped it inside on top of and created my own parade. And I would call my family, look, it's a parade. This is before gay pride that I realized about that thing that happened. So at the earlier age, I realized the power of making or transforming things. And I realized, wait a minute, there's this idea of how the world say how people should live. Maybe I could alter it, change it. So I started to realize later on, maybe there is a certain power of art making and making a sense of belonging where I could feel like I belong. So I excavated this drawing in 1989. I was 7 years old. And growing up in the Philippines, we were getting a lot of westernized culture. So a lot of the things that I was drawing was Disney cartoons and tracing. And I guess that's what my introduction in art was, this westernized ideology of cartoon. And it didn't dawn on me later on, until later on when I've been looking at the artwork that I've been drawing as a kid, was they were all Western cues. If it's not Disney, it's G.I. Joe. If it's not G.I. Joe, it's She-Ra or Care Bears. And there was something missing. I was looking for a Filipino cartoon TV show that did not exist. But there was one called Panday.
The adventure continues this week in Ang Panday,
which aired in 1986, which my father introduced to us growing up because he was one of the ghostwriter for that TV show, and it was actually the first Filipino TV show for children. So immigrating to Canada in 1990 was tough, and it was very changing for me. I was 9 years old, and I learned to assimilate, because if I didn't assimilate, I was the outcast. I was the other. I'd be the one that had no friends. I remember first time at school, and I was just standing at the portable during recess hours. I was that weird kid who just stands in the portable the entire recess hour, staring at people, and people staring at me. So I was slowly realizing the difference in cultural ideas. I couldn't bring in my Filipino food at school. Everyone was eating sandwiches. So my mom had to make sandwiches. I hate sandwiches, by the way. So I realized that we had to assimilate to feel like we belong. And not only that, but assimilate in the way we talk, the way we speak. And I remember my brother and my sister totally assimilated when they speak English, no accent whatsoever. I usually get made fun of because you can still hear a little bit of Filipino accent. And I was asking myself, why am I so frustrated to be ashamed of my Filipino accent? And I realized that maybe I shouldn't be ashamed of that, because maybe I shouldn't be ashamed that I have not completely whitewashed myself. So to me, all of those cues did not manifest until later on. High school was difficult, and a lot of the artwork that I was executing right away was very personal and very dark. This is an untitled ink on board between 1997 and 1998. And it was the time where I came out to a Catholic high school in Scarborough. So you guys know how that flies. I visited counselors all the time, and I was in a big depression. I was suicidal, and